Hello, 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 and welcome to the Rabbit Hole Heroines. My name is Jessica, the Big Weird Mom.
And I'm Jess, Crazy Mother Runner.
And we have quite the guest today. We have an up-and-coming TikTok star. Shane Morris is joining us, and we'll get into his stuff shortly after we do our little bit of a Parler and Telegram update. But welcome, Shane. It's so nice to have you today.
It's very excellent being here. So I'm really happy to be part of a live stream this afternoon. It was a good way to end my day.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we are looking forward to hearing everything about your little project. But let's start off with, we've got quite a big week with Parler. I don't know about Telegram, but Marjorie Taylor Greene has disappeared off of Parler, and nobody can figure out why.
I wish she would disappear off all places, but yeah. We'll start with Parler. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we'll start with Parler, and then we'll work our way. Hopefully the next thing is just like, government in general, which she definitely needs to be kicked off. And when I heard that she made that comment comparing mask wearing to the Holocaust, the first thing I did was look on Parler to see what she's saying, because normally she tones it down on Twitter, and then when she doesn't hold anything back on Parler. So we'll see. Hopefully she addresses it soon. Another thing that happened is Parler has a new CEO, and everyone is not calling him by his name. They're just calling him Candace Owens' husband. But we have George Farmer, who, like your friend Simon, is not from the United States. He's actually from the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't know. And they had a whirlwind romance of 3 weeks, right? Met 3 weeks later, were married. It was, it was a while.
Yeah. They met at some, I can't remember it off of the top of my head. It was some right-wing event of some sort. Yeah. And 3 weeks later they were engaged, and then they got married at the Trump winery.
Yes, I did see that.
We know whose pockets they're in for sure.
Is that really Rachel Hollis? I gotta ask.
No. I saw your video. I was like, wait,
that fits. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Shoot.
I mean,
I'm disappointed now.
I'm sure she would have loved to be at that wedding, let's be honest. But no, Rachel Hollis probably was not. She was probably doing an MLM board or whatever.
She couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What's going on Telegram?
Okay, well, while you were talking, I just out of curiosity went to Marjorie's Telegram, because she does have a Telegram. And I did see that she recently posted the Jihad Squad. That's not,
Who is in the Jihad Squad?
The norms, the gang, the girl gang on the Dems, radical hate American leftists like AOC, Omar, and their Jihad Squad are actively cheering on terrorists, Hamas, funded by Iran, as they fire missiles on Israel. I introduced a bill to stop Joe Biden from sending $235 million of our taxpayer dollars to terrorists in the Middle East. Then she also said critical race theory is evil lunacy and needs to be outlawed everywhere. And she said some China virus stuff and bitched about people that want to kick her off Congress. That was pretty much it. But Simon, my lovely, lovely Simon, he had some conversation about the election. It was a really weird post. It said election audit, and it was an image of the Biden's head semi-imposed on the Joker. I'm not really understanding it, but whatever. And it says, with Arizona and Georgia days away from official election audit release, days away. The question is, how long before Biden steps down? So yeah, I mean, clearly, according to Simon, it's just a matter of days before, Trump's back in office. I find it super funny though, that the woman that was heading the one in Arizona, Fan, and then now the one that's heading up the one in Georgia that's, I guess, underway with 100 and some odd thousand ballots that they're going to allow them to audit. They've both said, we have no intention of overturning the election. And yet everyone on Telegram's like, the election's a fraud. It's going to be overturned. The truth will be seen. I'm like, y'all are wild. Wild. So
yeah, I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't put Jim Carrey's head on top of the Joker, because
that was last week. It's a new week. It's a new week, Jessica.
Is Joe Biden. All right. Well, craziness persists as we have come to notice that. And that, I mean, what is their new goalpost? Do they have some more goalposts? Is it just everything is hinging on the audit? Or
the last I heard was July 4th or August. I think you heard that they were going to have like Air Force One fly across the Mount Rushmore for Trump's new inauguration at Mount Rushmore. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm doing this with a straight face. I know. I like Shane, like, what? So basically they're like, keep your eyes to the sky on July 4th for Air Force One. Trump's on it. It's going to Mount Rushmore. He's going to be, the reigning king of America. I don't know. It's It's always bad shit. I give up. I argued with someone who blocked me when I debated them about it, but I was like, so now it's July 4th. And then she's like, or August. I'm like, holy shit, you're like pushing the goalposts as we're having a conversation. Like, do you not hear yourself out loud? Like, come on. But
yikes.
What they do. So.
All right. Anyway. Well, so we have Shane Morris with us. And for those of you who don't know, Shane, he does a bunch of stuff on TikTok. I'm just going to start off before we introduce him and have him tell a little bit of his story. I'm just going to throw a little disclaimer out there. The information that he is working on now and the team that he's involved with are currently a part of a company with active political campaigns. They're working on projects right now to get all of our fun politicians, who are our usual team, as Jess said, out of office. So that will kind of limit the amount that Shane is able to share with us today. So if he needs to kind of pivot the conversation, just to keep that in mind for those of you who are on live, who are asking questions. And with that, I would like to share the TikTok that Shane made that kind of piqued our interest, and then we'll hear from the man himself. So here we go. This is Shane's TikTok video.
I need to make a confession. For the past 6 months, I've been helping Republicans post lies, misinformation, and propaganda on the internet, but I did it for a good reason. After the general election, but before the special election in Georgia, I realized that Republicans were spreading the big lie about voter fraud, so I wanted to better understand it. That's why I launched GeorgiaElectionIntegrity.com. It's a fully functioning website where people can report voter fraud, and they can even buy terrible merch. But most importantly, as a data scientist and machine learning engineer, this website allowed me to track every single user, their behaviors, and what they do on the internet. I was able to track over 400,000 unique users and gather 15,000 unique email addresses. Using a proprietary tracking pixel, along with Facebook's own marketing tools and tracking pixels, I was able to triangulate all of our user information and better understand the GOP base, Trump supporters, what they do, what they read, and where they go for information. It's pretty dark. Last month, when Georgia was trying to implement racist, draconian anti-voting measures based upon the big lie, guess how many people went to my website? The answer is about 180,000 people. I used machine learning to track 180,000 people in the state of Georgia and what they think about voting. So if you're a conservative or a Republican or a Trump supporter, I need you to understand something. You're being lied to, and I know this because I see all the sources where you get your information, and they're not verifiable. Very often, it's not even Fox News. It's even more weird right-leaning propaganda networks that are lying to you because it benefits them from an advertising perspective. The more time you spend on their weird YouTube channels and sites, the more money they make. That's why they're doing it. I got inside the Trump lie machine, and I need you to know it was all bullshit.
Fun times. Welcome, Shane.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. We're so glad to have you here. If you want to just start off by telling us a little bit about your story, how you came on TikTok, and how you came into this project that we just heard about.
I have a varied background. I've worked in a variety of industries, mostly in programming and engineering and computer science. I came to be on TikTok because my friend Taylor works for TikTok. I've known her for a while, and she encouraged me to join because she was like, look, you'd be really successful here. You have a unique voice. And I've only been on the platform for, I guess, 2.5 or 3 months now, and I'm approaching 30,000 followers. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, so I just joined, and I was like, I'm just going to kind of figure it out. And for the first month, I was like making weird cooking content and dad content. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And so then I was like, yeah, so I was like, finally I started doing some more scientific computer science, political study information. And then, once I realized that the Georgia election integrity site was just waning traffic wise, I mean, I didn't really think there was going to be a recount in Georgia. Otherwise I probably would have made that video, but yeah, I was like, might as well tell people what I've been up to and try and, get the word out that opposition material works. And when I did that, people were really surprised. They were like, oh my God, like I've seen this site on Parler. That's you. I'm like, yeah, that was me and friends. So I'm pretty impressed that it worked. I was more shocked that it worked, I guess you could say.
That's crazy.
Awesome. Yeah. So, as you and our followers know, Jess and I have been doing those deep dives on Parler as well. I think I did see your website for sure. I think it definitely made the rounds on Parler, and I'm not at all surprised to hear how many logins you had and how much traffic you received at your website. They just want to grasp on to any little thing that will give them, give them some sort of validation and a source.
Yeah. I didn't need credit too. I can't name them, but the people who were editing the videos were some good friends of mine. And what was it, Lynn, whatever, and Sydney, the wackadoodle weirdos from Georgia.
God, yeah.
So anyway, they really were just a treasure trove of sound bites and video content. And like, it wasn't actually even hard to make supercuts of them just like saying random, wild, just wackadoodle nonsense, gluing it together with some dramatic music. And then we would take like pictures of Chinese tanks, because why not? And just, roll those through. And it's funny. It's like making fear porn, like how do you scare people? Yeah. And so we would just, the Slack channel was lively and hilarious because like, what if we said this next? I'm like, can we? Like, let's find a clip of them saying it instead. And sure enough, like we would find a clip of them saying the thing that we wanted to say. And I was like, wow, this is easy. So yeah, we made it work just using, like, we didn't have to create any original content. Truly, we really just kind of
our content.
Yeah, they were amazing. So like, shout out to them for making my job easier.
Sydney Powell, Linwood, and there's still content. Oh my God, they still are out there speaking. And
the MyPillow guy, he was good too.
Oh yeah. Mike Lindell. He's amazing.
Truly, you're sitting with two other people who've literally built a platform on TikTok of hundreds of thousands of people, millions of likes. And I really didn't add very much. I had my, I would throw in some jokes here and there, but like, really it just was me staring at the camera like this, like, are you serious?
Yeah. The jokes wrote themselves for these people. Right. They really did. Like the wild things that come out of these people's mouths is propaganda, but it's also like, holy shit, they're saying the quiet things out all the time. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine.
So tell us a little bit about, as much as you can, of the team you worked with. What are their backgrounds? Whereas like you come from a data management and, investigative background, what other fields were contributing to this project?
So the first person I reached out to was a friend of mine who I'd known from the music business in Atlanta, and I talked to him. He knew some people that were working with PACs and then had worked with Democratic campaigns, and he basically said, hey, I need, you guys should meet. We exchanged a few texts. It was like immediate, same sense of humor, same kind of sideways approach of things. And so as soon as I realized they were like safe and, on board with the idea, we realized that we had something really golden, because we knew when the Georgia special election was coming up. So we had about a 3 or 4 week lead up to the Georgia special election. And so we knew we could try and cause a lot of damage. So our initial goal was to infiltrate Parler. And we found this clip of Lynn Wood saying that if, Trump wouldn't support the Georgia GOP, then they shouldn't vote. And so we wanted to get that message out there, like, hey, don't go vote. Perfect. And so that was like our thing, like just use their words to try and, influence people to stay home. Cause it's technically exactly what they were already saying. We're just helping amplify their message. And so then once we realized it was working and I started getting, people sending me like proof on the form, like some of it was just so crazy. Some of the like it's never anything original. It's always like a screen cap of a Facebook post or, some crazy right-wing website or something that was obviously published on a Blogspot site. That's just something someone made up. And so you get these submissions and you just kind of read through them. And once I started reading through them, I was like, wait, there's a lot of these. And then they went from being like, the first day there was like maybe 3 or 4, but by the second week, there was like 400 submissions in one day of voter fraud in Georgia. And it's always the same thing. Like, I saw a black guy. That's like, okay.
Oh my God.
And so, like not exactly like that, but it's just like, we don't know where they're coming from. I think they let him out of a prison. And it's like, cool. Yeah, we'll investigate that immediately. So
that sounds legit. Let's look into it.
Yeah. And so I started making this connection. I was like, wait a second. What if I made more sites like this? Like how could I, further what we're doing in Georgia? And so the main guy that I was working with, he and I kind of talked a little bit. And then another 2 guys in the Slack channel was like, hey, how many hours a week do you want to dedicate to this? Because I'll spin up the sites. And then what we can do is we can start sending. So we built an email list up about 15. It's actually 16,000 people now. So we built an email list up and we started sending people emails to our other sites that were related issues. So we've got one that is designed to scare people away from immigration because we started seeing that there were like interests. And so we started aiming them towards things that we liked. And I actually modeled it after Glenn Beck's email system. So I signed up for Glenn Beck's email, which you should never do. It's the thing. But I signed up for his email to understand how their email flows worked. And I was like, I'll just use a template that they use. I'll understand how they do it. And we even feature like sponsored posts that we make up because that's what they do to make it look legit. We send sponsored traffic to like the, whatever brain pills or whatever the heck we could find on Amazon. And then, make a little affiliate link out of it and make some money.
Yeah.
But like, it was funny because that's exactly what they do. And people respond to it. Like the right wing base is so attuned to this particular type of communication that sadly, it's actually easy to tailor communication to them because I don't have to invent propaganda. I don't have to invent this type of messaging. They're so attuned to the type of messaging that I'm delivering them that they're just very receptive to it and they like sharing it.
Right.
Is it like a sheep mentality? Would you say it's like a sheep mentality?
Well, I know some very smart sheep, and I wouldn't want to, besmirch the good name of all the intelligent sheep I know.
I just love how much I get called a sheep, and I'm like, you guys realize you all say the exact same things and give me the exact same sources, and they're all the same bullshit. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it also kind of like would probably, just from my perspective, if I was running this project, that whole aspect of, you're not creating content that is, essentially, making it worse. Like you're just taking what they're saying and kind of funneling it. And I would think that morally that would make you feel a little bit better than as if like you were making up some stuff and adding to the fire. Like, can you talk a little bit about how you felt morally through the process?
I think he froze.
Oh no. I was like, wow, he's staring at me very intense.
Oh, he did. He bumped. Okay. Well, I still see him on here.
I don't see him on. Sorry. We'll give him a couple minutes to get logged back in and
okay. Anyways,
sure
but I just think it's interesting that, like he was saying, they're sending him the same regurgitated claims, and I don't know. It's just funny to me how much of the same sources they use.
Yeah,
over and over again.
Yeah, and that kind of made me feel a little bit better too. When I was reading Parler posts, it was like that when people would say, honestly, like, we had no idea it was this bad, or like, when they would write me DMs, and I know that you get these DMs too, where it's like, gosh, my dad, my husband, my son, my whatever has fallen down this rabbit hole. Like, what do I do? Like, people were thanking me for showing them exactly what the crazy was, so that they could go to their family member and
not that it changed anything.
Right.
I mean, because I see them in Telegram still, like, telling each other, like, my husband thinks I'm crazy. And I'm like, because you are.
Like, you are crazy. Yeah, it's insane. It's and it's crazy that it has lived on. I mean, like, I shouldn't say crazy, because nothing really surprises me at this point, but like, that we're getting into, like, we're literally like, we have rounded the corner on this pandemic. That Biden is president, and the world has not fallen apart, contrary to what they thought would happen, and they're still like, and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are still like adding fuel to this fire, and like
a non-existent fire,
trying to make the most offensive statements that they can, just for the sake of doing it. But also, I think Marjorie she hopped on the Holocaust train a long time ago. I saw a clip today, while she was like just beginning her campaign, where she was saying that she didn't want any of the statues of either the Confederate statues or anything having to do with the Holocaust or Hitler to be removed, because somehow that's the only way that she's going to be teaching her kids how this happened. Apparently books don't exist.
I was going to say, how often do I drive past statues? Never.
Right.
Never.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, okay. And like, how often when you drive past statues do you stop and look and say, like, oh, hey, like, this is what happened. This is why they put this up. But for the Jewish American, for the, insert here for the Black American, like, that is a symbol of so many things, intimidation and hate and like
oppression. So much. Yeah, I know. I don't get it. Like, you don't need a statue to learn history.
Right.
You don't. Like, Google is free.
Right.
Google is free.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then she's like making, like I said, she's making, I kind of want to go scout her Telegram now that we had brought it up, because I forgot that she's on there, and she's verified on there. So I know it's her.
Right.
Oh, there's a petition. Did you hear about the petition to remove her?
Yeah. I did.
So like, it's huge. I think it's over 100,000 signatures now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it did. She posted a petition demanding Nancy Pelosi remove me from Congress surpassed 100,000 signatures from radical hate America leftists. And now Nancy Pelosi's top lieutenant, Steny Hoyer, the Democratic majority leader in the House, let it be known he is coming after me. Chip in $15 to help me fight my cause. Always grifting. They're always grifting.
Yeah. I want to know how much money she made from that gun.
Oh, the Badger thing? Yeah, I'm curious too.
Yeah, we need to look a little deeper into that. But
there he is.
There he is. All right. Here we go. Whoopsie.
Welcome back.
So, yeah, welcome to Power Surges.
we were just talking to you while you were gone. No worries.
Cool. I'm back.
Okay. So we were talking about like the what were your takeaways from it? I think that's what Jessica had asked before we kind of
just out. Kind of like, I was saying that I was wondering how you felt morally about I would think that it would be a good thing that you're not actually producing new content and you're not actually feeding the fire as to like making more lies, and how did that affect your thought process, like morally going into this?
Yeah. So the idea is that you don't really need to create anything new. They do it themselves. You just need to amplify their messaging in a very specific way. And then, the reason we set up these satellite sites is that I would like to amplify Republican primaries eventually, and try to make them fight with each other as much as possible. And then obviously when the when the general elections happen, the goal is to try and convince people not to vote because this candidate isn't worth voting for because they're not tough enough on immigration, or they're not tough enough.
Yeah.
They're not going to defend the Bible enough, or whatever it is that their opponent said about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the funny thing is, with the power of, artificial intelligence and how we can sort these lists really rapidly, I can create an entire list of people that I know is extremely evangelical. And, the goal might be to say, well, this person, you can't trust a Presbyterian, they, or whatever it is, just these nonsense things that they respond to, because as sad as it is, there was a time, maybe 4 years ago in 2016, where I might have thought that some of these people could be brought back to operating within like a reasonable, governable society. But now I don't think that. And so rather than pretending that, they're operating within some normal, reasonable boundary, I'll just let them do what they want to do, and they're going to do anyway, and just be better at creating conservative media than they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, it's a lost cause.
Did you use any of the information that was unearthed in the Parler hack? Did you integrate that at all?
No, I saw that happen. I forget what her name was, her username at least, the one who downloaded whatever 20 terabytes of
Crash Envy.
Yeah. Amazing work. And so it just really speaks to the amateur hour kind of nature of, how Parler was going to be this great platform. And then there was going to be the reboot of Parler, but it didn't work. And then there was the Mike Lindell's social network that he built on Drupal, but really poorly. Most of them they're not a sophisticated tech stack.
Right.
They don't have to be. They just have to inject fear and general nonsense. And so, yeah, I'm not at all surprised, but no, I didn't need to use that. And the other thing is with our information, and I know this, came up later, is that, we're not doing anything with this data that wouldn't be done with any other conservative email list. I'm probably, and as much as I hate to say this, I would guess that I'm less hackable than something like Turning Point USA is, because these people hire typically like junior level engineers that aren't serious about the job, and they pass their cell phone around, they lose their cell phone, they immediately lose their two-factor. So these things have happened in conservative circles. So I think that at least in my hands, we know that these lists are air gapped, like the email list that I procured and everything. It's not internet connected, so you couldn't get it to unless you physically came to my house and got my computer.
Oh wow, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, it was crazy to see that go down with the Parler hack, and to see that little small window of opportunity that she had, and she just hopped on it, and it was awesome. So moving forward, like what was your biggest takeaway from this whole, from this whole project? What would you say what did you learn about that you might not have already known about the right?
I think the takeaway that I had wasn't so much a takeaway. It really just kind of confirmed what I really thought was happening, which is that you have, and I've done, typical media. Like one of my clients is the largest publisher in Norway, right? A fairly liberal, progressive, moderately socialist society. And so I've seen how Norwegian citizens triangulate their information. So people who have, a basic understanding of civics, or have done some background in political science, or a couple journalism classes, or, just generally somebody who has any liberal arts degree, not anyone, but, they'll understand that it's important to triangulate your information, try and find more than one source of information that says something. If the Washington Post reports it, and the Atlantic and the New Yorker, and they all have similar stories, this is probably a real thing, right? And, you can evaluate information that way. The way that conservative media operates is that people who trafficked our site, what we found is they had very siloed information, where they were only coming from the Daily Caller, or they were only getting their information from very specific YouTube channels, because we were using Google Analytics like everyone else. And so once you start sorting your users, and you realize you assign a non-PII code to them, you start realizing, oh, this is our Daily Caller group, this is our crazy YouTube channel group. you start realizing that they're only finding their information in one place. And that method of gathering information and viewing the world is beyond unhealthy, because most of the people who operate in extreme right-wing media, I mean, this is going to sound crazy to say, are really just selling like diet pills and shakes and weird books and just it's clearly profit motivated, and they don't really need to report the truth, so they just kind of speculate and
wildly
just really strange things. Like some of the articles, you know, that I would read, I'd be like, what is this title? And then I would go click on it because I'm like, this can't be right. And then of course, you know, it's like, you know, the thing that we were discussing before we went on air, which was somebody saying that Joe Biden wasn't driving a Ford F-150. Like the kind of lies they make up are just strange. Like, you know, granted, you know, Joe Biden's in his mid 70s. I'm not going to say he's the best driver in the world, but I wouldn't put it beyond him to like navigate a truck across what is effectively a football field parking lot or whatever it is.
Football field.
There's nothing for him to hit. Like, what do you credit? Like, what is the alternative theory you're proposing here, that there's a shadow hand? And that's what they talk about. They talk about the shadow government, and there's actually somebody else who's running Joe Biden. And it's like, no, I think that, you know, I think that what they find is that the reality is boring. I think that if anything, Joe Biden is a boring old man. He was a senator for how many years? He was in Congress before that. He's been a politician since he was like
40 years.
20 late 20s or whatever he was when he got elected to Congress the first time. So he's a boring guy. He's extremely calculated. He was a VP pick before, and he was a VP pick because most VPs are fairly safe picks. And he ended up becoming president because, compared to the incumbent, people were just kind of ready for something safe. And so I feel like, you know, they can't just go with he's really boring. They have to make something up. And so they do. Like, you know, he can't drive on a parking lot. Why? So
well, yeah. And it's crazy too, also, that like they like miss the mark by like just a little bit. Like, you know, if they would actually like sit down and do the research, they would find corruption in the government. They would find, you know, crazy problems that we haven't heard about. And it's like they take the long way around, and sometimes they're not that far off the mark, but like their ignorance is just clouded everything about that. And like it's crazy I keep saying this, I'm sorry, I keep saying it's crazy, but
well, you know, it's going back on what Shane just said. I literally had an argument with someone about Kamala Harris boarding a plane. Like I literally got trolled and like temporary banned because I proved somebody wrong about lying about. She showed a video and stopped right before it went for her all the way up the top where she actually boarded the plane. They were like, the plane's missing. I'm like, but why? Like, we know she landed somewhere else, and we saw her get off the plane and be greeted by the governor. Like, why do you think she didn't get, like, the things that they want to conspiracize is just like, I don't even understand.
Right.
Like,
but I'll say this. I'm thankful that they don't have a nuanced political view of the world, and they'd rather invent their own stories, because I do think that if there was a competent GOP right now, or just competent conservatives in general, there are legitimate critiques of some Democratic policies out there, you know, and I'll name a few just because I know they probably will never see this, but like, I'm not a big fan of the extraordinary rendition or extrajudicial drone strikes overseas. I think that, you know, yes, some people are terrorists, but you know, we're killing a lot of families in the process. And this is something the Obama administration did a lot of. They never, ever talk about that. These are issues they don't talk about. And there are some legitimate criticisms to our foreign policy in that regard, but they don't get there. And I'm thankful they don't get there, because you can't be critical of something that's like not real. You know, like I can't have a discussion about the crazy Kamala Harris can't get on an airplane theory. Like, thank God that's what they're saying. Like, because like that's like cool. All right, we'll have a debate on whether or not she flies Southwest. Like, what's the I don't know.
It's crazy, and I will ask people about like what do you think's not bad policy wise, and they'll be like this. I'm like, but that's not true, and they're like, yes, and like it's beyond me. I don't understand.
Yeah. So Rowdy Girl says, does the DNC know Shane is doing this? If not, is he going to share with them?
I will try and hedge this answer as safely as I can. I know that there are some people that I am working with that have worked with the DNC in the past. It is highly unlikely that any established political organization would touch me directly with a 10-foot pole. And it's just because the type of oppo we do is something
liability.
Like it can only be bad. And like, I would be like, if the DNC ever touched me in any official capacity, I'm like, I have like neck tattoos and gold teeth and like enough Google history that they don't want. So it's like, look, like I'm going to do what I'm going to do and it benefits them. They don't have to help me directly. And I can work with, the pack under a pack that, is being funded by somebody else. And like, thank God for Citizens United allowing anybody to spend money on anything, because it allows people like me to be funded and operated when before it would have been impossible without, a paper trail. Whereas now I create an LLC that's a shell company, that has some random name and it's written into, your pack, and then nobody has any idea what I do. So, we basically just operate like Republicans now. Oh.
Well, no, exactly. That's what I was going to say. I mean, people are going through Marjorie Taylor Greene's line items with her, in regards to this, whatever she donated, or she paid to have ad promotions on Parler. And there's literally absolutely no repercussions for her actions. That and the, what we've talked about in, with her, having the 2 homestead tax evasion, basically. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, she did it, but is she going to have any repercussions for that?
Right.
Probably not. Like, and we've got this petition. Like, why do we need a petition? Why, at what point is she just like so unbelievably irresponsible and out of pocket that we just, like, she needs to be removed,
Not a single GOP outside of, the 2 sane ones said a word about her behavior for 4 days. It's like 4 days. They let her make Holocaust style, verbiage on national news. And they're like, we're just going to ignore it.
Why? What? Because they're scared? Like, what do you think?
I don't know. And people are defending her still. Like, she has a fan base that thinks that she is. Like, I literally saw a video where someone was also comparing mask wearing to Holocaust. I'm like, you are comparing mass genocide to putting a piece of fabric over your face. Like, give me a break. There's no comparison. I'm sorry.
No,
like,
there isn't. No. And, and I touched on this a little bit in my TikToks. I'm hoping to speak on this in future podcasts, but, my grandmother survived the Holocaust. Her brother died in hiding, in Germany. And, she, to get any type of story out of her, she was 14 when she came over here. It was like, she didn't share anything about her experience with us until the very end of her life. And even then it was like, unthinkable. And she didn't even have to endure the super terrible parts of it. She was in hiding, and she got out before, the death camps were really in full swing, luckily. But like, to even compare her experience where she was, in someone's attic watching her brother die, like, it's unthinkable, and it's just like, read the room, lady. Like, why do you have to be like this? Like, why,
I know, but there's a lot like them.
Human.
I mean, they really see this as a way to scream oppression. I mean, Jesus Christ, there's literally a video where they're singing to the freaking Hunger Games thing with 3 fingers in the air, like lunacy, because they're the oppressed. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, did you watch the movie? Did you read the books? Like, you're not Katniss, okay?
Right.
You are not Katniss in this scenario.
Yeah. Right. It's a little strange to me, especially when you think about not just like the strange comparison, but also the mental logic that you have to use to get there. Cause like you have to put yourself in Poland or Germany in 1942 or 43. And, as some, Jewish person's being hauled off to Auschwitz, I'm pretty sure they weren't thinking, well, at least I'm not wearing a mask. like
right?
that's not a thing that would have ever been uttered by any person. Like, they were aware of where they were going, they knew it was happening, and there was not a single Holocaust survivor who was like, yeah, the Holocaust was bad, but there's no way you're going to catch me wearing a plastic or paper mask. I mean, it's just the lunacy and the leap of logic it takes to even say something like that is
out loud.
Right. And how are we're comparing like, are Jews the virus? Like our, like you think about wearing masks and getting vaccinated to protect the people around you. Like in that comparison, does that mean that the Jews are like a danger to other people? And by putting that, I don't understand. I don't get that leap of logic. And then like also, okay, Hunger Games. Okay, so if you're the oppressed, like who are the people in the Capitol? Like RuPaul's Drag Race? Like that makes sense to me, I guess. But
I'm like, they literally want to demolish the Capitol, guys. Take the Capitol out and distribute their wealth amongst the districts. You guys aren't for socialism. They were for socialism. Yeah. Like, you're totally missing the point of this fucking movie. What is happening right now?
Right.
I just can't. And they're like, this means revolution. I'm like, no, asshole. This means your comrades died. I said in the movie, let's annihilate the rich and dispense it upon the poor. Like, it's socialism. I know. It's a hard concept, guys, but that's what that movie's about.
I guess we could never just hope they never watch Field of Dreams or something. And I just got like a bunch of GOP guys like becoming baseball players. Like, did you guys understand what happened here? Like, what's happening?
I have people that tell me that Back to the Future and Terminator were like preempts for our future. Right. I know for sure. He's like, what's happening? If you really want to get lost down a dark, deep rabbit hole, you go Google Tom Numbers and watch that batshit crazy man's videos and how much he loves Back to the Future and the Terminator and so many other movies that he has turned into. The Terminator equals like Trump is Jesus. I'm not even kidding. Like, it's bizarre.
Did he compare Joe Biden driving in the F-150 to the old man in Back to the Future? Because
he probably would have.
Those kind of connect.
I mean, I'm sure he would find that parallel if he tried. The numbers have to add up, Jessica. The numbers have to add up. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how fast is he going?
Trump equals the Messiah. I hope you know that.
All right. Well, the next question that I have was actually from my husband, and he's wondering, the Big Weird Dad is wondering kind of what, I know you've explained it a little bit, other than the like basic, info grabbing that you had, what was the scope of information that you had exactly? Like what were you, if you can say, what were you tracking?
Yeah. So the idea was, and I'll just kind of name it. So I was using Klaviyo for email tracking. The way our system works is through AdRoll. So AdRoll is an advertising service that a lot of advertisers use. AdRoll has an API. And so what I did is I used the AdRoll API. That's a SQL-based API. So it allows me to take everything out and take that database and extract it. And then I was able to cross-reference it using another marketing tool that's frequently used called Hotjar. So Hotjar takes screen recordings of everything. And so we overlaid the screen recording with the AdRoll information. We were able to determine high-intent people, what pages they went to, how long they spent on the site, what they hovered over. And then we started targeting messaging to them. And then we do that on all our sites. So the idea behind this is that I can get an idea of, what your mouse hovers over, what you're reading the most. I don't even have to know what you click. So, we're able to then take these and we measure intent groups. And I start building groups the same way I would with like my corporate clients, where we, if we're going to try and build a group for an advertiser, we do the same thing, but here it's just with misinformation. And so the only thing that we can't do is that, basic data privacy stuff. I can't attach your personal information to this like non-PII ID we assign you, but yeah, I can get a pretty good idea of what you want to buy, how many kids you have, how old you are. On Klaviyo, they allow us to collect birthdays. So for a while we were collecting everyone's birthday on the way in. So we could send them happy birthday emails. I don't know what we're going to end up doing with that later, but we can. And so it's really more about understanding how old they are. They give us their date of birth and we say, hey, we'll send you a special message on your birthday. Well, now I know exactly how old you are. I've, got a great pinpoint for a good demographic pinpoint.
Right.
So we collected as much as we could. And, not shockingly, it's a lot of older conservative people. There's not a lot of young people that are trafficking these ideas. There's a few, they're the outliers, but it's kind of what you already thought it was. You've got a lot of people who are 55 plus. The zip codes that were signing up were, not just from Georgia, we ended up expanding. It's kind of strange how it happened. We ended up having people from Hawaii, joining this list. And so, yeah, because Parler, they sign up, they want to be part of the quote unquote truth or whatever it is. And so, we started realizing that it's a fairly large footprint, but when you look at these zip codes, not a lot of urban zip codes. It's a lot of rural areas. And, it's Trump's America.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Atlanta, but I also lived in rural Georgia for a little while, and I know the people. I know exactly the kind of folks that I was dealing with. Here in South Texas, we've got friends that are hardcore Trump supporters. It sounds crazy, but like I have a friend who has the full Trump wrap on the vehicle with the flags and everything on the Expedition. So it's like I know these people, right? And you got to interact with them. So I'm not surprised to find out that the things they're saying out loud are the same things that I have heard, on the internet. They repeat the same talking points. It's just weird when I hear it in the real world. Sometimes I'm like, dang, you said that out loud today. That's real cool. Like, what are you going to do?
Did you, I'm sure my followers are wondering, did you ever uncover any information that you had to forward to the FBI? I mean, people had stuff out on Parler that ended up, getting FBI attention. So I'm sure that behind closed doors, it was worse.
Yeah, the submit fraud information stuff was benign or stupid, or sometimes it's kind of funny. So sometimes people who are liberal would troll us. And so I would get sent like people in furry costumes as pictures, like they would send me funny stuff. And like, I'm like, hey, this person got a sense of humor. But a lot of it was like, check this out. And it's like a Facebook post or a screen cap or a meme or some strange, diagram that could really have been put together with like red string, red yarn and like little photos. It was just, it was like some Beautiful Mind stuff. And there was really nothing, like there's nothing of substance. Like there was never a threat. It was like, sadly, people being genuine, like, and I think that's the crazy part about this is I think their concerns are genuine. I really do think that some of these people do believe that they have uncovered the great election fraud. And, of course they haven't, any person could have debunked it. A lot of these things are videos that have been seen by 1 million people. And it's sad that they're genuine and earnest in their beliefs, but nothing is worth like, there's never like, if there's anything worth passing along, like a real bomb threat or a terrorist item where I'm going to do this. Yeah, of course, I'll contact the proper authorities, but this is, your Aunt, Faye on Facebook who saw a link and clicked it, went on her Parler account, saw a guy who said that, these 4 black guys were standing outside the voting location and that possibly couldn't happen because why would black people vote? And then here's, maybe you look into this location and it's like, yeah, I couldn't imagine black people live in Fulton County. No, let's look into that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the on this audit that's happening in Arizona?
Oh, all these audits. I mean, when you understand like the voting technology and voting machines that, they're using complex mix nets that are almost impossible to ever hack, that every single place there's been an audit, every single review where, a real company has gone in and done a proper audit, not, the cyber ninjas, the results come out roughly the same. Sometimes there will be a vote or two difference because of some weird signature issue or whatever it is, but it's not like you're having hundreds or even thousands. You might have a half a dozen votes change, which is enough to change literally 0 elections. And so I think they do it because their motivation is to undermine the faith of an election and not really to ever overturn an election. I think they said the same thing in Georgia, like, oh, we don't think this is going to do anything. We're just trying to really make sure and impress upon people that we don't like the outcome. And it's like, okay, so you're just anti-democracy. Cool. Got it.
mean, they've proved that through and through. I'm interested from your perspective, because whenever I look at what the cyber ninjas are, I just get more and more confused. Like, can you break that down for me? Like, what are they? I don't even know if you know anything about them, but
on their best day, the cyber ninjas are bad web developers that aren't talented enough to get jobs at reputable companies. Like they have like even like their website's poorly designed. You can't take it seriously. They don't have any real meaningful clients. They exist in what I will call general right-wing grift world, where there are many people in conservative circles and people who are willing to donate money to groups like the cyber ninjas, because they believe the cyber ninjas, with a name like cyber ninjas, who couldn't be legit, and and so they donate money to these people because they present themselves as these authorities in information security and penetration testing, when in fact, when you look at the resumes of their founder, the people that work for him, they would struggle to get entry-level positions even at Yale local IT company. These are not talented people. So the reason that they end up doing strange and bizarre things like looking for bamboo and paper, like what, is because there aren't valid, they don't have the ability to conduct an actual forensic audit of any of these machines. They don't have the technical know-how. So rather than doing something that would be at least useful, or something that, I would even say is technically they're doing something that is verifiably smart, like, the voting machine, let's audit, this mix. No, they're looking for bamboo and paper because China or something. Like, it's just some of it is just so lazy that I feel like even addressing it is like, I feel dumb even addressing, like, who are the cyber ninjas? Like, guys who couldn't get a local IT job. Like, they would work for your local IT company, but they would be the dude who comes in and like struggles for 20 minutes to get your internet working, and then wanders back downstairs and eats a sandwich and doesn't get anything done. Like, that's the guy. Like,
I literally posted a video of them and I jokingly said, why are they giving this machine a colonoscopy? But they were legit shoving a light endoscopy into a Dominion machine. And I'm like, what are they doing? And the woman in the background's like, I was in public health. I'm like, what has happened? Is this a colon screening? Like, is the machine in
the files cancer? Are in the computer? The files are in the computer. Let's shine a light in there. That's where the votes are.
I'm sitting here like thinking to myself, like, don't you have the ballots? Like, can't you just count the ballots? Like, why are you shoving an endoscopy inside of a machine? I don't understand.
Because those machines, they can defy physics and they can change physical matter. So when those ballots go in, no telling what would happen.
And everyone in my comment section is like, Ivanka Trump has patents on voting machines. Like, if they break the machines and they have to buy more, then she makes money. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
So why
always a grift.
Is that not mentioned? Like, but they, I will say this about the cyber ninja, those ninjas, they put together a website with a lot of really cool stock images of ninjas. That's about all I have to say. That's all I got from looking at their website.
I'll say my takeaway is this, and this is like useful if you work in democratic policy, you work in digital strategy. So my take on this has been, I appreciate the GOP doing everything that they've done, because when you look at GOP strongholds like Utah, right? Like, they're not contesting the vote in Utah. 95% of Utah votes by mail. They send ballots, not ballot request forms, but actually ballots in the mail. Like, when Republicans, and I made a TikTok about this, but when Republicans design their own voting system in states where they know they have a majority, where it's not close, they do it like Utah does. And Utah has a great voting system. I'm not even saying that Utah has a bad voting system. I encourage people to vote by mail. It's convenient. It's easy. Do it. But 95% of Utah is voting by mail. They're sending ballot requests. They have multiple forms of ID they accept. And so what I would suggest is that, if you have more nefarious sort of, well, not even nefarious, just let's say you exist in the gray areas like I do. If you live in a state that's a Republican stronghold that has easy access to ballots, you might want to start maybe parroting some of these talking points within your own state to make it more difficult for Republicans to vote. Because if this is their sincere belief and they want to make it harder to vote, I'm fine, do it in Georgia, but go ahead and Utah and Wyoming too for me. Because like take a state like Wyoming and Utah, especially where you have a lot of rural voters, they need to vote by mail. It's not convenient to drive 70 miles from the middle of whatever mountain city you live in to go to a high school gymnasium. The reason they do it is convenience. And so, so if they started implementing their own voting, or the quote unquote voting policies that they would want in Georgia and places like Utah, they would be putting their own elections at risk, because then they would make it harder for rural voters. And then you would have, more urban areas carrying votes. And I think that, they need to be very, very careful with what they're doing, but I'm not going to help them be careful. I'm going the complete opposite direction with it. I'm going to make sure that people in red states are terrified of voting by mail.
Yeah. I mean, I live in a red county in California, but it is required that you vote by mail in my county for the same reason that you said. I would have to drive probably an hour and a half to vote. But you literally can't. You cannot vote anywhere but by mail in my county. So I'll definitely keep promoting that what they, because I'm willing to drive an hour and a half, but some of my neighbors, I don't think they are.
Yeah.
Make your county blue, Jessica.
Oh, that'd be nice. I need to. Man, if I didn't have so many freaking skeletons in my closet, well, not skeletons, but I'm not exactly electable in this area, but McClintock needs to go. And that's who our person is. And I'm thinking about like trying to reach out to whoever is running against him to like see how I can help.
Yes. Well, I'm just curious, speaking of kind of upcoming elections, did you hear about the Richard, I'm trying to find my information on him, Bochard? So it just came out, he's running for Congress in 2022. He got a 14-year-old pregnant when he was 18. It gets better. So he gets her pregnant, convinces her to keep the baby, marries her a year later when she's 15, he's 19, divorces her when she's legal at 18. She takes her own life within like the next year. He raises the child on his own. The son is now, and mind you, now this all just came out and he's like condoning it. Like we did the right thing and I stood by her and and she tragically took her own life. And, and he like was making excuses for him, statutory rape, basically. Come to find out a little bit, dig deeper, his son, who's 36, is in jail for sodomy.
Oh, jeez.
Do
people still go to jail for sodomy?
I guess.
I mean,
or he has charges for sodomy. I don't know. He's got sodomy charges.
For who?
I don't know. I think it was I think it was something to do with a minor.
Well, that's legit. But like, who is sodomy?
It's interesting to me. Like, the GOP was masterful in making Dennis Hastert, their Speaker of the House, pretend like he didn't exist when, he went to prison for molesting children. Like the Speaker of the House did that for the GOP.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, this wasn't even that long. It was 10 or 15 years ago. It's just amazing that they were able to so easily sweep some of these issues under the rug. Matt Gaetz is currently being Matt Gaetz. I mean, I'll tell you what, and my wife and I have talked about this. I saw his face and I was not surprised.
Same.
Yeah.
He looked like a pervert.
He's just got a very pervy face.
He always gave me creepy vibes. Always. It's the hair, I think. I don't know. There's always something about him.
But I feel like, a lot of it is, well, especially just, to kind of get back to, what I saw on the inbounds, they don't really have policy ideas. And so when you have no policy ideas, and this is something my wife and I talk about frequently. I basically feel like it's people with policy ideas, like, and the Democrats, and they don't even have a ton, I really do feel like it's just like these strange, one quasi-functioning political party and one political party that's just strange, and so they're not trying to improve healthcare. There isn't like defense spending cuts. There isn't any infrastructure plan. It's just like, hey, we got you like a $600 tax cut in 2017. Congratulations, like go get yourself a pair of Air Jordans and a meal at Applebee's and you're done. And like it's easy to bribe them. And so when you have that kind of when you don't have people who have to implement public policy or have any background in policy or explain big ideas, you can elect somebody who among us didn't get a 14-year-old pregnant at 18? Like it's just like, who are these people? Like, where do you find them?
Yeah, I know. And the funny thing is that the right is the one that's literally creating this entire narrative. I don't know how much you saw about like the extreme conspiracies, like the cabal and all that. I guess yours was more targeted towards voting, but like they have these incredible Save the Children cabal like story tales. And I'm like, have you looked at your own party? And I'm not denying there's not that kind of behavior on the left. There is. But it's the fact that is kind of entrenched in a very conservative Christian mindset too. Like we're seeing a lot of this Christianity mindset, this oppression of their sexuality. We've talked about this many times on here. But like this is a perfect example. He felt obligated for her to have the baby. He felt obligated to marry her. Like where did that obligation come from? You know what I mean? He felt obligated to have sex with a 14-year-old. That should have been the obligation that should have stopped. But his Christianity didn't get in the way of that, but it got in the way of everything that followed, course. So I just find it interesting that, it's so predominant on the right, and yet they're the ones that are like Hollywood and the cabal. I'm like, okay.
Right. As if like an intrinsic personality trait of being a liberal is being a pedophile is like what I get from that. And meanwhile, like you could, it's anecdotal evidence, obviously, but like you could actually say that about the right, even though there's obviously a lot more behind it, but we're not weaponizing that.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed it's a strange trend, and I don't know what it is because it was a QAnon trend where there's this idea, and I don't know what it is, where I feel like a lot of things in conservative media circles connect to pedophilia, where they have connected the transgender bathroom rights bills to pedophilia. They have connected whether or not, you allow gay, scout leaders to serve, whether or not they're going to become pedophiles because they're gay. Like, it seems like all roads lead to pedophilia for them, when in fact, it's just, it's not a liberal or conservative thing. There's just a few twisted people out there, and there's, and it's clearly not a pizza restaurant, and it's not some strange blood drinking thing. It's a crime that's fairly rare, that happens regardless of your political affiliation. But because I think it's scary, and it kind of goes back to that fear complex, right? Where when you're attuned to listen to fear of immigrants crossing the border and whatever comes next after they cross the border, and they're not really crossing the border because we know that 80% of them come on in airplanes and overstay their visas. But anyway, so it's like they come in Southwest or whatever, and then they do what? Scary, like everything that they are piped in, whether it's, InfoWars, if they're that far, or Fox News, when all you hear is fear, then obviously the pedophilia angle just kind of plays into that, because it's more fear, which is, I mean, legitimately, I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to my son. It's just that it's rare, like it doesn't happen very often. And there are other bigger issues that are much more common that I would love to solve and have conversations about. But, let's talk about this cabal or whatever.
Well, and I get in an argument with people all the time. They're like, child trafficking is real. I said, yeah, in like the UK and Africa, like in the States. I'm like, do you realize like 99% of children that go missing are home, like return home safely? Like, it's usually like an instant, like a parent issue or
it's a child custody dispute. It's like
exactly.
Or
it's never like a legitimate human trafficking. And I actually like called this guy out on it, and he blocked me. But he just, he got mad because I'm like, you're telling half the story. Like you're saying, he was like, everyone cares about 500 and some odd thousand people die from COVID. No one cares about 480,000 children missing every year. I'm like, because 99% of them go back home. Well, what about that 1%? I'm like, really? Like that's how you're going to double down. But it's just, it's not something that happens in the States. It's a global issue. And it's ironic that a bunch of nationalists are crying about a global issue that they have no intent of actually rectifying, in my opinion.
The narrative in child trafficking is they want it to be Silence of the Lambs, and it's Maury Povich. It's family disputes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I don't talk about it a ton here, but a lot of the stuff that I do on my main account is for mom groups, and it's like, there are so many times I see in a mom group, someone being like, "Oh, my ex won't let me take, my kid on a vacation," or like that. That is what people get in trouble for the most. And like, you're right. It is fear. It's weaponizing fear. It's like if you walk up to somebody on the street and say, do you kill babies? Most 99.9% of people are going to say no. If you say, do you want to kill babies? People are going to say no. But like, and that's how they're equating like a pro-choice mindset is exactly. That these people want to kill babies.
Proud 1%er right here.
Yeah. I mean, killing babies, we do that all the time, but like, it's like,
but yeah, like that's why I try and like use my TikTok channel. I'm like, I'm trying to be as responsible as I can about it, but that's why I try and, talk about things that I think are like real issues for parents. Cause when Jack was born, my wife left her job. So we, she could take a year off and just kind of, raise the baby together. It's been great. But she's about to go back to work. And so, now we're looking at childcare for the first time, and I'd never really looked into it. And like, if we're going to talk about issues related to children that actually impact every American, like I would much rather have a conversation about childcare costs, because that's something that most parents deal with. Very few parents are ever going to deal with their children being abducted. God forbid I ever do. But, I think every parent is going to deal at some point with whether or not, they want to pay for more expensive childcare, less expensive, what's closer, what's convenient, the school, whatever it is. And so I wish I could have a productive conversation with people on the right about that. And I can't because they are so far off in crazy world that like we're not having a discussion whether or not it should even be subsidized. They're saying your children are going to be abducted by crazy people in pizza shops. And I'm saying, yeah, but I just like, maybe like a $300 a month, check just to kind of help ease the bill a little bit, you know, like,
but if you could not afford to have a child on one income, then you shouldn't have had a kid in the first place. Like,
that's the argument.
It's just like cut and dry, it's like, even like, do you think about like Dr. Laura, like, Dr. Laura is super conservative. She's not in the limelight right now, thankfully. But like, she has made an entire career off of this cut and dry, black and white, like you don't live with your partner until you're married, and then you don't have kids until you own your house outright, no mortgage, and and you can survive on one income. And like
the psycho female Dave Ramsey.
Right. And any deviation from that is unacceptable. And that's a conversation that we do need to be having, but that's socialism. So
we can't. That's the thing. Like, this is why we can't have nice things. And like, honestly, like I'll say this, like the one reason that I am thankful, at least in like what I've been able to do recently, is that, I do think that if, there's two parts of this. I think that we can change America. And I actually had hope this last political cycle. And this is the only candidate that allowed me to go outside of the NDA to talk. And that's why I bring her up so much on TikTok. My friend Kayla Young, she had never run for office before. She was a single mom with 2 kids in West Virginia. And she told me she wanted to run for office. And, we'd been friends since before she ran. And, we ran a focused political campaign with a positive message in West Virginia. And she talked to people and, and it's West Virginia or, Charleston, where she is, about half Republican, half Democrat, not a slam dunk by any stretch of the imagination. But, I do think that if you're able to get to people's front door, which she was able to, even, in the pandemic with her mask on, like you can talk to people about, real issues, but you have to get them away from their phones and their computers. You have to say, hey, what's going on with your coal job? Are you still working in the mine? Are you working in the administrative side of the mining? Is your family member impacted by the opioid epidemic? Those are the real issues that she was able to win on. And it's unfortunate that you have to get people away from the internet to get them to react to you that way. And for me, at least personally, like I'm on the other side, of course, like trying to gauge people on the internet to get them to go the other way. But yeah, there is hope to it. There is. It's not like a hopeless, it's not completely hopeless. It's just, sometimes there are days where it seems pretty bleak.
Yeah. What are your hopes for the future? How do you, like I said earlier, if you can share this, what are you hoping to take this project into and kind of change the way that we look at political, information that we receive online, and this problem that we have.
I'm going to do a small part. I try not to think of myself as too big a piece of the machine just because I'm one person, and then I'm working with a half a dozen people. So our little organization's small, and even if we were to grow, there are a lot of political strategy organizations and digital strategy, digital campaign organizations out there, and we're not going to be any more effective. I can't shift public perception that much. An extremely effective digital strategy campaign might get you a 1.5 or 2 in an election. It's just people are really entrenched in what they believe. You're fighting against decades of learned behavior. So for me personally, I'm going to do what I can, and what I think are close races. We'll work with candidates and campaign managers, during the political cycles. And, in the meantime, I guess between us and the audience, Sarah and I and Jack, we're moving to Norway. I have no intention of staying in the United States. So I've got to the point where personally I didn't think I could change the world enough, and because of my line of work and the contracts I have, one of the companies I work with is in Norway. They're willing to sponsor a movie there, so we'll be there by March of next year.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I got to a point where, strange as to say, my patriotism, my willingness to try and change the system was overridden by the fact that when my son gets school age, even though it's rare, school shootings happen, and I just don't want to have to deal with things like wondering if my kid's going to come home from school. To me, that seems like a burden that I don't want to deal with. And I think that if any other parent was in my position, they would probably do the same thing. So
100%.
Go live in a country with great education, free college, a great healthcare system where people live 10 years longer. And, he'll always be a U.S. citizen. We'll always be U.S. citizens. We'll maintain the house here in Texas. We're not getting rid of it or anything. It's just that, I can't find a good reason to stay. And, I think for me, it was probably January 6th that cemented that, where I was like, hey, we might be able to win a few campaigns and change a thing here or there. But I think that, unfortunately, from my point of view, at least, I think our democracy broke a long time ago, which is why I kind of look at the TikTok thing and the Parler thing, and it's a sideshow, but it's kind of sad, honestly.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really sad. Yeah.
And I try, I agree. Like, my husband lived in Denmark for a couple of years, and I've been there, and it's night and day. It's night and day. Like, just the climate and the way it's family focused, things closed, it's just so different. So yeah. I agree 100%.
It's to me, it's always kind of funny too, because I've got family from South Korea, and I've been able to travel the world a lot, and it's strange to me that, like what you say about being family focused, it's kind of what conservatives always talk about. They say, oh, we want this family focused environment. We we want to live by these Christian values, and I'm like, if you only knew that all these Scandinavian countries exist, and if you could just visit, you would realize that the thing that's probably in your head is what they have, but you've been scared away from it by interests that know that they can scare you away from that idea because it's profitable to do so. And I want to go live in that environment because it's great. I've been to Oslo. It's fantastic. And so I think that it's if I can get the message out there, I mean, of course I'll continue working in U.S. policy because I can work from anywhere. I work from my computer, but it's to me, it got to a point where I was just like, if I have the choice, and I did, and Sarah and I talked about it, it's like, let's just dip out. Let's go somewhere, we can come back in 5 or 10 years or whatever it is, but let's at least show our son that there's another way to live that isn't this way.
Right. You don't get that time back either. So
yeah.
Well, how can our followers support you and your team?
So if you want to, so I've got, I guess I could promote Odd Job, although it's not really like something that we have like a general contact form. It's not really public facing. So the political strategy group is oddjobindustries.com. That's where campaign managers and stuff find us. My personal website is shanemorris.sucks. So you can sign up for my email form there. I'm not on Facebook. I have an Instagram account I don't use. I'm not on Twitter. I'm really only on TikTok. I generally try and avoid social media. I was off it for a while. But yeah, you can always find me on my website. And this is why I do that. I worked in social media for a while. I worked for MySpace when I was younger. Shout out. And so I have this myopic view of social media, and social media platforms live and die. But if you're really interested and you want to like read my blog post and see what's kind of going on, people can always go to my website and read blog posts. And if it's intentional, cool. I don't send out a lot of emails just because I don't like annoying people, because I know people don't like being annoyed. But yeah, you know, like go to my website if you're interested. Go to the TikTok page. ShaneMorris.sucks is my TikTok as well. And you know, go check it out. I don't like to self-promote that much. I feel like it's just, I feel like there's plenty of people on TikTok who can stitch my videos and do the duets or whatever it is.
Yes.
Oh, totally. You know, I know that our followers, you know, even people in my immediate family are just like, how can we help him keep doing what he's doing? And, you know, that goes for both of us too. You know, if you need help with any of this project, we are so in.
Yeah, I mean, you guys definitely take deeper dives on Parler than I would ever personally want to. So I will be emailing you if we get to a point where we want some people who are you know, really just got I don't know, just such a self-loathing where they really just need to get in the mud like that. You know, like you really got to dig in.
It is a self-loathing. You're correct. It is.
Like,
I hate myself.
There's a reason why it's called Parlor Martyr.
I don't honestly, like, seriously, thank you for doing what you do, because there were a couple times I logged in and I think like I lasted like 5 minutes. It was just, it's brutal because it made me feel bad. It was like watching a car wreck or something where you knew
dirty,
you just scroll. It's like watching a car wreck. Just every time you scroll, it's just like another car wreck, or you know, like watching a child on a bike get hit by a car, or just something terrible. You know, you're just like, you want to stop it, and you're just like, God, it's because the more I scroll, the worse it gets. And so I appreciate you doing the work you do, because I would never do it.
Yeah. I mean, they've got ads built in now. Have you noticed that, Jess? There's like ads in the feed.
Who advertises? Who are their advertisers?
It's like, I took a screenshot.
It's like you said, like a lot of like weird kind of cryptic, like late night television stuff. So I don't know if you've ever watched Doug Billings, and I'm sure he's a fabulous source for the right, but he will do an hour-long segment, and I'm not kidding, pay 20 commercials of like, you know, diet pills and Patriot merch and just the most wildest shit. And I'm like, back a supporter. I'm like, dude, it's an hour. Like, I should not be seeing 30 minutes of advertisements on your hour YouTube channel or whatever. But
it's like the epitome of clickbait. It's like God promotes this vitamin supplement. Like, what? You know, that's it.
It sounds like
you will live forever. Take it.
It's the Glenn Beck stuff. It was the Patriot Power Green or whatever the heck it was. You know, like, because somehow they connected patriotism to smoothie powder, and I was like, what? Like, sure, I guess, you know.
The Trump coin was pretty popular for a while on Parler.
Yeah. Well, apparently, Lauren Boebert's pronouns are now patriot. So
yes.
Now, whenever you say patriot, you're talking about Lauren Boebert.
God, she's so embarrassing.
Why? She's embarrassing. They both are. We have a lot of embarrassment in our Congress right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, I think we will wrap it up. Shane, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so glad to have you. We might need to have you back in the future. Sure. We definitely will be connecting, and hopefully we can work together for some fun projects. But everybody check out Shane Morris at ShaneMorris.sucks, and we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye.